Hello there everyone, welcome back to another video about Battle Spirits Saga. This is going to be the second part of my complete, comprehensive set review moving into the main launch of the game. I say set review, but I do mean every card that is going to be tournament legal going into the first series of Grand Opens. If you don't know what those are, I will be making a detailed video on all of that stuff. We're still waiting for a little bit more information to come out about, like, you know, specific breakdowns of how things are going to work. They've kind of drip fed us. We're waiting for dates and stuff. So I am waiting a few more days to make that video. Hopefully Bandai will get their shit together and get stuff out sooner rather than later. But that is, if you are interested to know more, then check out my Discord server. And also, on the topic of shilling my stuff, I will be doing some competitively focused Battle Spirit Saga content over on my Patreon, where you'll be able to see that sort of stuff first. I have been told that other people who have done Battle Spirit Saga Patreons are doing like a blackout period 2 weeks before a major event. I think that is a massive scam, because why would you subscribe to a Patreon if the only time you actually need it, they're not going to provide you with information? So I'm just letting you know now, if you do subscribe to my Patreon, there are no blackout periods. I'm going to give you the information as I have it at the time I make it. So if you're interested in Battle Spirit Saga competitive content, that will be coming up over in the next few weeks or so as we approach the release, and as we go into the big tournament circuit seasons. And of course, if you are interested in One Piece competitive content, you can check that out as well. There is a library that has been building up of One Piece content over the last few months, with more still to come. In fact, today I believe there should be a new Patreon video going out for the One Piece competitive enthusiasts. So if that's you, of course, check that out. Okay, we've shilled for more than long enough. Of course, like the video if you're enjoying me shilling, and subscribe to the channel for more Battle Spirit Saga content and, of course, One Piece content. Let's go ahead and jump into it. As I said in the first video, I am going to try and be relatively speedy and just give you an evaluation of the card. I'm not going to, wax lyrical about every card. Especially because a lot of them are quite bad. Now, I will also say, purple is the colour I have by far the most experience on. I guess for further context, while I have you here as a captive audience, my team of me and two of my mates, basically, did all our testing for the launch event in about 4 days, and we all played the same list, of course, minus me, because I didn't buy any products, so I only had, like, 2 ice shields, we all obviously got prize money, but my friend Sincleric, got third at the event. So his deck profile's on the channel. You can check it out. Yeah, I would say we have a fairly good understanding of purple. It was the only purple who got top 8, I think. But yeah, let's go ahead and jump into this. Just so I can slap some credentials. Bloody Rain. This card sucks. The problem with this card is, firstly, the flash effect is pretty worthless. Using this on a burst, like, it's not really going to do anything. And then the burst effect to force your opponent to lose cores. By the time, like, basically this is something that's only really useful, like, super early in the game, right? If your opponent's going wide and trying to rush you down, you set a Bloody Rain, and then, okay, they potentially are not going to be able to kill you because they need to remove the core before they attack, right? Like, it's, in order to attack, it's sort of the prerequisite. And in that sense, because how powerful certain aggro decks are, Bloody Rain could actually be an incredibly powerful counter. If we do see these decks like white aggro popping off and being all over the place, then Bloody Rain actually is very, very good. The reason I'm saying the card is bad is because I think it's very unlikely that we're actually going to see that situation where those are the decks that are everywhere. But potentially this is worth just the sideboard space in the off chance that they do. But I don't think this is necessarily like a particularly good card. It just happens to solve a potential issue that purple has. And there's sort of a generic issue in general. Core Drain. This card is very, very powerful. So removing 3 cores in the first, 5-6 turns of the game is probably going to kill basically anything. The issue is, the second your opponent has seen you use the card once, they are going to be very wary about exhausting any of their units, or spirits, sorry, and more likely than not, they're just not going to. So it's very easy to play around. That being said, functionally, this is always going to cost 1, and getting 2k BP manipulation for that is pretty nice. But again, like, the main reason you want to use this is for removal, and if you're not getting the value out of the removal, it can feel a little bad. Poison Shot next. So this is another burst, which lets you draw a card, and then also remove 1 core. As you might imagine, this is not worth the the card stock it is printed on. Purple Smoke Valley. This is a very powerful card. So this is one of the nexuses that purple decks play. You draw a card and one of your effects destroys one of your opponent's spirits via reducing its cost to 0. Worth saying, this does not, this is if you kill multiple things at once, for example, through your Curse Dragon combo, which I'll come on to and explain shortly, then you only draw once from this. It only triggers once. And then the actual surprisingly useful second effect is just giving all your stuff with Curse free value by forcing your opponent to block it with units they've committed to. Sometimes that can matter. Also, you combo this with Baculus and suddenly your opponent can't block at all, and if they haven't got like an Ice Shield or something, then you can win the game. So this was obviously much more powerful during the launch event when people had more jank decks, but going into the main set, I expect this to be less powerful. Next, we've got Dark Grail. This is a when placed to shoot off 1 core, fine. And then during your attack step, you can draw a card and one of your purple spirits is destroyed. This, in an aggro deck, seems like it would be quite powerful. Of course, the big issue you run into is you leave yourself without defense, so you need to be playing a sort of critical mass of defensive tools that mean you're not going to die on the crackback. But the fact that you can potentially play this to just give yourself lots and lots of resources, a big issue with purple is card advantage, does make this card potentially quite nice. Stray Soul next. This card is not good, and you know, this is going to come on to. In fact, I'm going to say this now. I'm going to take an aside now because otherwise I am going to just keep sort of darting around the subject. Purple has this horrible habit of having a lot of cards with when summon. If you have been playing the game on a competitive level at all, you will know that actually when summons are like a massive, massive detriment. And if anything, if your deck can function without a single one, that's ideal. What's the reason? Primarily the reason is Star Blessed Draw, because, you know, okay, you get a when summon, but my opponent draws 2. And that's very, very unlikely to ever work out in your favor, because your opponent is essentially getting a free +1, right? Because they lost a card from their hand, but they're drawing 2. So they're filtering through the deck and they are getting a free +1. And usually you're not getting like a free +1 or better from whatever the when summon you're doing is, right? So, and this is not factoring in other incredibly powerful bursts that can really mess with your game plan, for example, Countersword. So when I talk about a card that has a when summon, my default position is going to be, this is bad, until the when summon is so good and so powerful that I'm just like, okay, I mean, this is worth my opponent resolving one of those things, because fundamentally what I'm doing is so broken that it's fine. So that's just something to keep in mind. That's why I'm going to say this card is terrible. Next, we have got Phasma Vats. Again, this card is really not good. Yeah, okay, it can draw you cards, but there's a much better version of this that we'll talk about from shortly. Vanilla, not particularly efficient. This card's okay, but there's just a strictly better version that we'll see. Pandal. This card ended up being surprisingly useful. The reason was that it's a 2, you can play it for 2, and at 3 cores it's a 4k, and it's a curse unit. And weirdly, purple has ended up leaning very heavily into curse, just because it's the only deck type that just doesn't get giga punished by all the generic tools. Even though I think curse is, you know, kind of weak and kind of easier to deal with, but it, like, at least, you know, it's a better meta call right now than going for the typical core removal and stuff, because that's so easy to play around. And as a result, Pandal is actually quite a playable card in that strategy, because again, it's 4k, it's out of Burning Force range, and then it's just, you know, it's a curse unit, and it's a 4 cost, so it synergizes with Beldical. This is a vanilla, potentially efficient. Obviously, if you play it out for 1, then 3 cores makes it a 5k, and 4 cores makes it a 6k. It's pretty good. Damn Bones card is bad. Mamira, this is another bad card. People played this initially, but yeah, that when someone is nowhere near good enough to justify your opponent resolving something for free. Saga Snake, this card is potentially good, but it's like a more restrictive version of just using the Nexus. Next, we got Dragon Argo Assassin. This card is very, very powerful. So this gets Curse at level 2 and level 3. It's cheap to make level 3. It only requires 3 cores. It's 4k, so it dodges Burning Force range. And when it attacks, if it's got a Soul Core at level 3, you draw a card. Frequently, as a purple player, you will draw 3 to 4 cards off of this one card over the course of a game. This is very, very good. Do not sleep on it. The worst part about it is it only has 1 reduction. Pentacles, I don't like this card. It's a when summoned to shoot all but 1 core off of one of your opponent's units, but is that good enough? Well, if your opponent counterswords it, absolutely not. If your opponent it draws 2 of it, still probably not. And of course against red, it's horrible because they draw 4. When it attacks, then you get to shoot off 1 core. So there is a really strong argument to play this because you do have lots of ways to shoot stuff down to 1 core in purple, and if you lean more heavily into that, this card does become a lot better. You know, if you play it for 4, it's a 5/4 essentially. Get it up to a 7/6, and then like an 8/7, so like, it's okay. It's just fine. I think it's just fine. Like, it's not bad, but again, you know, the when summoned isn't giving you that immediate value. It's kind of reliant on combos. Dark Matter, when you lose life, you can salvage a 4 cost. As a main, you can just pop a 4 cost. It's fine. Again, it's relying on your opponent exhausting the spirit, so the nice thing is they could have stacked up loads of cores onto it, though, not expecting this, so this does have potential utility as like a surprise tactic. Next, we've got Core Theft. This is a really powerful card, but not for the reasons you probably think. Actually, we're frequently not using this card for its removal effect. What we're actually using this is because this is the only core removal that sends the cores to trash and not reserve. So worth saying, this card doesn't get around the whole Fuller combo. I know it says place. You know what, Bandai, there's so many rulings in this game. I can make a whole video on just how bad the rulings are in this game and how there's so many issues. But anyway, the reason that matters is your opponent needs usually 3 or 4 cores to play an absolute ice shield. Usually they're going to leave just about enough cores on the field to make that happen. What you can do is if you core theft and you pitch your entire hand, and your opponent now has no cores at all, suddenly you're just winning the game because they're not going to have enough cores to activate the ice shield and they're screwed. So that is something that's worth saying. This is the real utility behind this card, because typically once your opponent gets more than 2 cores on something, it's going to be a horrible neg to actually use, but it can let you secure random Ws that you kind of didn't deserve. Poison Mist, I don't really like this card because the issue is, again, it only goes for exhausted spirits. It does skip the block timing, so it's like treated as basically the unit you're attacking has blocked the attack, which is nice. And of course, you know, you're swinging into it with Curse, so you're going to kill it unless your opponent does some, you know, hard removal. But yeah, I do like that it gives plus 3k, but again, it's at best it's 2 costs. It just seems very expensive for what it does. Cute, but not really worth playing. Burst Venom, again, this is just not very good. Next, Deadly Balance. This card is unbelievably cracked. The main reason is you do not need to have anything on the board to use it. So frequently, you will let yourself get board wiped, and then you just go, yep, cool, balance, balance. And your opponent suddenly lost 2 huge things they've committed all the resources into, and then you can spam the board out again. This is just always letting you trade, like, in a super valuable way. This card is just incredible. It's like a 3/4 of, like, always, and the alt art goes so hard. Next, oh sorry, I've realized it's gonna, yeah. Next we got Rotting Swamp. This is another one that draws you when one of your spirits is destroyed, and then it also lets you do some stuff with spirits, with serpents, sorry, but you need 3, so making it level 2 is usually not going to be worth it. This card is fine. The biggest thing it's going for is because it's fairly cheap. Ancient Amethyst Palace, when placed, you mill and potentially get some value out of it. Unlikely. And then during your turn at level 2, you can potentially start shooting off cores when your stuff is destroyed. Again, really not very good. Like, you get what they're going for, but it's just not giving you anywhere near enough value compared to the other nexuses in the game. Next up, we've got Netherworld Depths. So this is the most broken Nexus in purple, and it's also, like, super bad. And the reason is you're drawing a card whenever one of your opponent's spirits is exhausted. So your opponent's suddenly, like, on red alert, like, oh, I can't block, I can't attack without giving my opponent huge value. The issue is red is going to eat this for breakfast. Everyone and their mum is playing Burning Force in the main deck. And if you just paid 6 to play this and it gets Burning Force, you're going to feel absolutely awful. If your opponent plays Rocket City, like, which is just the white side into this, suddenly all those extra cards you're drawing are getting you nothing, and if your opponent sets up multiple Rocket Cities, this is a mandatory effect, so your opponent can then start really fucking with you by making your whole hand just get discarded because of the Rocket Cities. So bear in mind, like, you can get really, really punished by an opponent who knows this is coming. And for that reason, I do think this card is just going to end up leaving the purple deck because you get punished way too hard for it. It costs way too many resources, even though it's very, very powerful. And it's just another reason why you see purple just taking L after L after L, because all its cards are powerful, but they also get hard countered really, really, really easily. Abandoned Guillotine, this is okay in making your shadow stuff really, really big, but, like, stats matter to a limited degree in this game. And yeah, I don't know. The during the start save effect is okay, but like your opponent can obviously play around it really, really easily. So I don't know. I don't think it's super good. Next we've got Illusioner. This is another vanilla. It's fine. Spider Demon. This card is very, very good. This is an amazing turn 1 play going second because it lets you pretty much kill whatever spirit your opponent played first, and sink some damage in. Of course, if your opponent played a Nexus, this is a lot worse. But even later on in the game, this is amazing. You can get it out of Burning Force range thanks to it being 4K at level 2. This is an amazing card. Super, super, super strong. One of the best ones Purple has, and again, not an on-summon, so double use for days. Devilish Pranks to Imp. This card is, again, fine. During your attack step, you can, shoot off one of your opponent's cores. It doesn't really come up, like, ever. It's not great. Phantasm Archking Xanas. This is just a bait card. It's way too expensive. It's cool, but, yeah, not worth it. Dark Lancer Cavalier. This is the most noob trap card in the game, IMO. My group was playing this, right? And we just noticed that, hey, yeah, I'm drawing a card, but if I play this pretty much any time after turn 1, my opponent's going to draw one as well, which I'm just giving them free value, or I'm going to get counter-sorted and lose one of my huge dudes that I've really been relying on to win me the game, or, a whole host of other powerful bursts. Which just means you kind of have to cut this card because it's just giving your opponent free value and it's not doing enough on its own. If this said, draw a card and pop something, I'd be like, okay, well, you know what, I'll take it, but that would be ridiculous. So yeah, just ends up being cut. Another vanilla, pretty stat efficient at level 2. Next, we've got Dogma Avalance. This is the better version of the previous unit I was talking about. It's 3, but it has 2 reductions. When destroyed, you can draw a card if it's got a Soul Core, and it has Curse at level 2. Of course, unfortunately, it is only a 3k, so it does get Burning Forced, but, you draw when it gets Burning Forced, so it's not the end of the world. This card is quite nice. Definitely really good in Curse. This card is never actually going to be used. You need to make it level... you need 6 cores on it to get out of Burning Force range, so it's just getting Burning Forced. Camelot Night. This card is nice. You don't want to play too many of it because it's so small and it gets removed by literally everything, but you can threaten Curse on this very cheap dude, which can either deal life or, just clear something. So it's nice enough. It's fine. Next, we've got Dark Knight Palomedes. This is a cool idea in being able to just swing into Exhausted Spirits, but again, your opponent has to exhaust the spirit. So if they know you're playing it, they'll just play around it, and even then there's lots of ways to just remove it, and it's quite expensive because it only has 1 reduction, so like it's a 5/4 for that effect to come online, which is not particularly stat efficient. Dark Knight Mordred. This is another one of those cards where it seems really broken, right? On summon, you shoot 2 cores off, and then when it attacks, you can shoot another one off, so pretty much it's core removal, sorry, core whatever it was, the 3-cost one, on a body that you're just getting free value out of. Again, the issue is it's a when summon, so it's triggering effects, and the problem with when summons is even if you don't resolve it, your opponent still gets the trigger, right? So even if your opponent has nothing exhausted, if you play this card, your opponent is still going to get to resolve the Star Blessed. So that's the issue with it. It's a very powerful effect, so you do probably want to play a couple copies, and it does synergize with Beldical, but it's one of the issues you run into. And that's why I prefer the Spider, because you don't have that when summoned, but also your opponent doesn't get the trigger. Next, we have got Belgor. This card is unbelievably, insanely amazing. This is the normal art. On summon, you pop a 4-cost or lower. This is, and it can get out of Burning Force range, and it's only a 3-cost, and it can come back during the attack steps. This is the level of power I want my on summon to have to let my opponent get value. This is how good they need to be. This is incredibly powerful. Next, we've got Dreadlock Nemesis. This is a mega bait card. Purple does not gain anywhere near enough advantage to actually take, good advantage of this card. It's not like you can, make out a board, then pop like 4 of them, and then draw 8, and then suddenly you can like set up for the, you've had your advantage turn, and then every turn after that, your opponent's going to be fighting an uphill battle. Like, no, not really. The stats on this guy aren't particularly impressive. And like, yes, he does have a really powerful when destroyed, but he only gets at level 2 and 3, so in the purple mirror, your opponent can just shoot cores off it, and you're going to feel pretty bad. And of course, in the non-mirror, yeah, but all they need is 1 cheap dude on the board, and suddenly this is doing nothing. And yellow and purple and red are really good at getting cheap dudes out onto the board to just die for this effect. So yeah, I don't know. I just don't think this card is very good. I don't think it's worth the space. Another vanilla. Okay, this is the best card in purple. I think this is going to start seeing play in pretty much every deck in the main board. The reason is, and I don't mean purple, I mean every deck. The reason is this is a fundamentally ridiculous effect. Even if you're playing this for 7, right? 6 plus the 1 upkeep cost. By shooting everything down to 1 core, that's a powerful enough on summon, like, where, okay, I'm okay with my opponent resolving, getting some value off it, because you're probably turning off every single one of your opponent's effects, unless they happen at level 1. And a lot of the really big effects in this game don't happen at level 1. In addition, this is an integral part of the combo with Curse Dragon, where you just board wipe your opponent, which is insanely strong, and you get to ramp. And for those 2 reasons alone, like, I think that's enough. It's also a 4K at level 1, so you do dodge the Burning Force. And yeah, when you add all these reasons together, this card is unbelievable. And it really does let you play around some of the most annoying strategies in the game, right? Like, if your opponent is trying to Majuke stall you, hey, Baculus counters that. If your opponent is trying to Elk stall you, hey, Baculus also counters that. Of course, unless if they've got the fuller combo up, then it is what it is. You can't really do much about that. But if they don't, you Baculus, and then suddenly your opponent's in potentially a very sticky situation because they can't rely on Elk just not dying, and you can really potentially mess with them. Yeah, this card is just really, really, really strong. Very, very, very powerful card. The best red players at the launch events were mainboarding or at least sideboarding this card. So, yeah, this card is amazing. And then, of course, this is the other combo. When summoned, you remove 1 core from all your opponent's spirits, and then if you've destroyed any of them, for each one, you ramp a core onto this unit. This card is insane, and of course, the combo between these two is phenomenal. The minimum number of cores you need, and this is a number you always need to have in mind against a purple deck, is if your opponent has no board, it is 6 plus 1, which is 7, and then a further 7 because of 1 reduction, which is 14, plus 1, which is 15. Of course, they could pay off the core from the Baculus, so at 14 cores, if your opponent has no board, this combo becomes online. That is the minimum you need, and it gets significantly cheaper if they have a board already. But you always need to bear that number in mind when you're going into purple, and you always need to expect it, basically. I think it goes without saying, this is the reason purple is playable, this combo. This is another one of those vanillas that's fine. Another vanilla that's fine. This card is not good. It's just, yep, everything bad that you could possibly put into one card. Bow Trickster is just a curse unit. It's fine. Again, there's way better options though. Bython, this draws when a spirit attacks, but it's, you know, functionally the same as Dragonaga Assassin, except without anywhere near as many good effects. And it doesn't get as big. Like, this is just so much worse. Pandemium of the Dark World 7. This is a bait card if I've ever seen one. Do not bother. Like, it's cool. It's never worth it. It's never worth it. King Snake Quetzalcoatl. This has the problem of when summoned, like, yes, you're salvaging, but your opponent's getting value off it. And when it attacks, you do get to pop stuff. And this is potentially very, very powerful. So even if your opponent has not exhausted something, you're getting value out of it. But you're giving your opponent that value with the when summoned. It is very good. And I will say this is one of the better ones that I think I haven't really seen a lot of purple players exploring. It is quite nice, but you do lean into sort of making yourself vulnerable to the when summoned stuff. And I believe, finally, we have Majuke. That is the last card. So this card is, it reads broken. It's actually bad / broken. Basically, if your opponent knows how to play around it, this card is so bad. Like, it's really, really bad. As I just said, Baculus hard counters it because you set it to level 1, suddenly it doesn't have Blood Curse, it's not giving Blood Curse to everything anymore, and you can just swing and kill the purple player if they haven't got like an Ice Shield or something, or you can certainly board wipe, that's definitely something you can do. And if they, and even if you're not playing Baculus, well, you know what, if you've got enough attackers and your opponent only has so many Ice Shields, so if you just swing under, and your opponent, like, is, okay, fine, you lose one thing, but, like, whatever. Now, of course, if your opponent does have the Ice Shields, which they're more likely to, that strategy becomes a lot worse, because, like, okay, cool, you swing under, I clear a couple of your things, and then I just end the attack phase, and you go, oh, that was horrible. So, you know, it is pretty high risk, and it can definitely come to punish you on the crackback, but, yeah, this card is very, very much possible to play around. It's kind of your only solution to the red matchup, but obviously once a red starts playing Baculus, then you have no solution to the red matchup and you just lose. This is why I think purple's the worst color in the game, actually, but you can check my Twitter for more hot takes. But yeah, overall, powerful card, It was really clutch in the launch event, but I don't think it's going to really see play outside of that. It's not even necessary in like the curse deck. It's powerful, but it it's fine. It's very expensive for what it does. So there we go. That is my full review of all the purple cards from going into the set release. We're still waiting on 2 of the tournament pack promos. As far as we know, that is the only stuff we're still waiting for purple. I think these promos would have to do quite a lot of heavy lifting to solve the kind of fundamental issues that purple has at the moment. One of them has already leaked and it has not solved anything, so we've only really got one more shot. So we'll see what happens. I will say the one that was leaked was a curse one, so we'll see. If you are interested in seeing those as soon as they get announced, please do hit the subscribe button and turn on that bell. You'll get notified the second those get revealed. I promise you I will make a video and I'll be on it. So if you want to get notified when that happens, of course, do that. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Is this a giga hot take that purple is the worst color in the game? I really do think it is. I think like it's we went through this like period in our testing. We were like, damn, why are we playing purple? Then we realized, well, it's fine. People aren't really gonna play around with that much in the launch event. But I do think once the main when people have had like a while to test with these big meta decks, they'll have figured it out by now. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you guys in the next video. More Battle Spirit Saga content coming soon. I'll see you then. Cheers.